All right, welcome back to another episode of Knicks Morning Coffee Recap. We're going to discuss a little bit about last night's game between the New York Knicks and the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, as we know, starting the game, our top three point guards were out due to injury, but I think a surprising move that Coach Tibbs went the veteran DeLon Wright over probably some of the fan favorites, Kolek, and I think that was a smart move just to keep keep everything flowing and then give Kolek the opportunity to come off the bench where you might feel a little bit more comfortable. I mean, it is Milwaukee Bucks, and they're not a team you can take lightly, even though they also were without key players, namely Dame Lillard. So last night we got the W. It was a fight. We can't feel sorry for teams who are shorthanded because nobody felt sorry for us. But this was definitely a total team effort. Everybody that played pretty much contributed, and that's really all we can ask for when you're going into a game, not without one of your point guards, but without three. And we held it down at that position. I don't think nobody could complain of the outcome, not just winning the game, but the way the game was played. Guys all over the court were looking for each other, and we were moving. And the best part for me is that it was not only, pace and space because we were running, it was also energy. And that's where we lack sometimes. I mean, I think guys know where to be on the court, but sometimes the energy level, may not have met expectations. But when you can balance out pace, space, and energy, you're going to be a pretty good hard team to beat. And not to mention that our threes started really knocking down our open shots, and that helped us out, tremendously. But in terms of the total team effort, you could look at all around the board. I mean, Towns didn't have his greatest offensive game, but that wasn't really needed. He was attacking the rim. He was looking for his shot going to the hole. He had 14 points, 10 rebounds. The 10 rebounds was good. Sometimes you think in a game like this without Brunson, Towns might, be able to get up to 35 to 40 points, but again, it wasn't needed. OG had a monster game of 31 points. Mikal Bridges, chipped in 26, 5 assists. Josh Hart, 13 points, 8 assists, 14 rebounds. DeLon Wright, who started, he gave us 12 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Mitch gave us 10 rebounds. Shamet came off the bench to give us 13 points. Even Kolek chipped in 5 assists. So that was definitely a total team effort and a win that we needed. I like the fact that we were able to get Giannis in foul trouble, and I was really shocked when he got the 5th foul, being the fact that they were at home, and sometimes superstars don't call that on them. But I also felt that when he got that 5th foul, stopping one of our guys from going through the lane on a pick and roll, I thought we should have came down and then at least got the ball into the hands of OG to try to attack him. OG was doing a phenomenal job last night of attacking the basket, and I thought we should have just took advantage of that so that they don't have an opportunity to creep back in. And he managed to finish the game and with the 5 fouls. And eventually Towns also ended with 5 fouls, but that was later on. And then I think sometimes with the chess match, we have to recognize that and go at them. I just want to go back to OG for a minute. Yesterday, he put his head down and he did yeoman's work. Like, OG went to work. And that's going to be something for us because there was a stretch in the game where Mikal Bridges felt like it was his team. And that's what we was talking about the other day, things that we're going to need, going into the playoffs. We're going to need between those two guys. Last night, it was both of them. But between those two guys, when you got a healthy Brunson, one of them is going to have to stick out every single night. And then the other guy is going to have to give you solid play because it's going to be hard to expect 4 guys to break out in a whole game. But three of them are supposed to break out. And then that 4th one. Now, we're not even talking about Josh Hart, what he's going to be able to give us. We're just talking about your top scorers, to keep the defense honest in the playoffs, that they don't know where it's all coming from. Now, granted, we were running. And when we stopped running, that's when you can tell we missed Jalen Brunson. But when Mikal Bridges had the ball, he was taking control of his situation. And the same for OG. OG just was getting it, off the pass, whereas Bridges started bringing the ball up a little bit. And that also gives us a whole nother dynamic that we should be able to use when Brunson is in the game. Now, we know Hart is accustomed to doing that when Brunson's there, but they know that Hart's going to do it. If it's not a one-man fast break, they know he's passing. But when Mikal gets it, that's like having another playmaker, a real playmaker who's a threat to score at any position when he brings the ball up. So I kind of like that, and I want to see that play out when we do get Brunson back, because that's going to make us a harder team to beat. Last night, Tibbs, he pushed the right buttons. He got the right people in. What Shamet was able to give us is excellent. I just hope he just keeps improving, and I hope they just keep encouraging him to shoot. Having DeLon Wright on your bench, I knew once we got him, it would pay off for us at some point, and there's only going to be injuries. If it's foul trouble, we got too many guys, but injuries was the only way I thought he was going to get on the court. But when you got a guy like him and you add in P.J. Tucker, who I hope we sign to the rest of the season, if we haven't already. I know he's on a second 10-day contract, but I don't know if it expired yet. But they can only help us in the playoffs when we got to go deep into our bench. And Tibbs are going to have to realize, too, with those type of players on your bench, if something ain't going right in a particular game, switch to them, even if it's only for 5 minutes. But give them the shot. That's why they're there. They're there to give you, bench depth, but they also give you solid stability in them type of crucial moments because they've been there. P.J. Tucker is an NBA champion and a vital part of that championship team. So let's use everything we got at our disposal. We still currently sit in third with 3 games now ahead of fourth. The worst can happen, I think, to us is that we probably end up in fourth. So it'll be third, fourth, because we're not catching the Boston Celtics. And if we season ended today, we'd be playing Milwaukee in the 3-6 matchup. And, you just can't never count that. Milwaukee don't want to see us, but we don't want to see them either, because you never know how they really going to treat Giannis in the playoffs. But without Dame Lillard, we should be able to get them in 7, if it takes 7. But we should still be able to get that series. But nothing will be stolen and nothing will be given. You're going to have to play through whatever mistakes that you may occur during the course of a game. And then in Giannis's case, we have to build that wall, because they were just letting him bully our guys going to the hole. I mean, I counted like 4 or 5 offensive fouls on him myself. But some of those you got to give the defense, because you just can't let Giannis barrel his way down the lane every time, pushing off, and then call a foul for him when he's initiating all the contact. Now, granted, there were times that Towns was backpedaling, and you're just not going to get that call when you're backpedaling. But the rule of verticality is going to have to stand, and we're going to just meet Giannis at the rim and then let the chips fall where they may. But the refs can't just keep bailing him out just because he wants to play bully ball, and then you're not giving it back to us on the other end, because Towns also was getting hit repeatedly, and a lot of times it was no call. All right, but in the end, we got the W. We have 9 more games to go. Brunson probably should be back soon, and we'll just gear ourselves up and prepare for. We pretty much know of one of those 3 teams we're going to play in the playoffs, be it the Hawks, Indiana, Milwaukee. So we just have to gear ourselves for that. Be ready to get out of the first round. We can't afford a first round upset. It just can't happen. And then we have to get in the second round, and then we have to fight like hell to get into that conference finals. And I think if we can get into the conference finals, we give ourselves a shot, to go all the way, because the monkey is on our back. And the beauty of it is we do have a Karl Anthony Towns, a real go-to guy down the stretch that we can rely on as long as we recognize in the situations. So, again, the Knicks, we're faring well. This is a nice place to be in. It's really nice to be in a top 5-6 team in the whole NBA. Far cry from, yesteryears. Mike Breen, he announced last night on the telecast where we were before Tibbs. And then you almost forget, because we're making the playoffs so regularly now, is that I think we only got over 31 wins once in those 5 or 6 years before Tibbs. So this is a blessing to be in this situation. It's hard work, it's continuity, and it's just a commitment to the ownership also, that he's allowing the brain trust and management to do exactly what it is they do. And I'm just happy right now that we're sitting pretty. You're never not a work in progress, but, we know we can see the light at the end of the tunnel in some cases. So, until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and stay with us through the end. Peace.